I think the rally, had a very soft feel to it. It's not like the substantive rallies that we've had in the past. So we talk about policy and very hard material. This one had a very different feel, and I thought the format, though it was different, but I think PM himself took a very different direction. I thought it was a very good, to address and take Singaporeans back, to the national agenda where we talk about, the progress. Not just talking about progress in rhetorics, but really people's stories, human interest stories in which we can be proud of. Whether it's a gentleman who had kids who have done much better than he has, or some of our young Singaporeans who are doing very well around the world, or even very few good stories as well of students who have taken the longer path to success, for example. And that also shows that Singapore today has evolved, in which we accept there's multiple ways, paths of success, not just one method, but also in different forms now. Some are entrepreneurs, some are kids who have went through IT route all the way to university and still did very well. And I think this, I hope, inspires Singaporeans to do that, in their future. And I thought what resonated best was really two things. One, PM's invitation. I think it's really sincere invitation for Singaporeans to come forward to be part of this national dialogue on our future. And it's really something that's important to us, whether it's about manpower policy, whether it's about population, whether it's about how we want to develop our social graces. That's something I think that has to be discussed and dialogued in serious terms, because sometimes we lose sight of some of these, especially in times where we too concerned about existing policies, current challenges, but we lose sight of the next 20, 30 years that we have to build Singapore in. The second thing that really touched me was also about how PM reflected on sentiments today, especially about anti-foreigner sentiments, which I think degrades Singapore's reputation, or even the reputation of Singaporeans in general, on how we welcome or how we treat foreigners in Singapore. And I think that to some extent, it's not fair. I mean, for Singaporeans to all be dragged into this, because it's probably some minority few who may have certain issues, whether it's on government policies or infrastructure or lack thereof. And to some extent, yes, admittedly, as PM also said, the government takes responsibility for some of these issues, but we should not degrade ourselves, in terms of how we want to portray ourselves as Singaporeans, gracious people with hearts, and send this false impression that Singaporeans are not tolerant, Singaporeans are not gracious, and so forth. So I think to some extent we've got to put the social aspects on the agenda, because today, even on the ground, I see the same issues where we find some neighbours, for example, being less tolerant of others. Today, for example, in 7-month festivals, you have more people who are voicing out against displeasure of people, of incense burning and so forth. So to some extent, that tolerance that we've had built for many years, I think needs to continue, whether it is of different cultures in Singapore, whether it is of our neighbours or non-Singaporeans. And I think this has to be addressed, and I think PM took it well in his stride, put it across pretty well. But at the same time, as you notice, he did not shirk away from the responsibility of having to put this on the agenda. And I think that's very good. And I think more importantly, I think if you look at the human interest stories, it's really heartwarming, and I felt that it's probably one of PM's best speeches to date.